It's Wednesday, the 30th of July. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the BLANCOLIRIO channel, fresh back from Oshkosh and getting a lot of requests for information on the loss of November 8796 Romeo, a 1975 Beechcraft Baron, which crashed at 10:30 at night in foggy conditions while attempting the ILS approach into Monterey's airport off the coast of California. Here's what we know so far. And this video, like the others, is brought to you by viewers like you that support this channel here on Patreon. Thank you for your support. Starting with the Aviation Safety Network, the Baron was registered to Sea to Sky Aviation LLC, November 8796 Romeo. It was a 1975 model Baron. This would have been powered by the IO 470 Continental engines. The flight originated out of San Carlos Airport, just outside of the San Francisco Bay Area, for the short hop down to Monterey, and the accident occurred at 22:38 or 10:38 at night. On approach, the aircraft entered a descending left-hand turn. During the turn, the aircraft climbed again before entering a high-speed descent until it crashed into the sea about 22:38 local time. Weather at the time of the accident was winds 280 at 6, 10 statute miles of visibility underneath the marine layer. This is the classic coastal marine layer, which is usually about 1,000 feet thick. Some local pilots were reporting the tops as high as 2,500 feet. Overcast at 900 feet, 15 degrees Celsius on the temperature, 13 on the dew point, altimeter 3003. And the second METARS has the weather reported at broken at 800, overcast at 1200. This is the instrument approach which the pilot was attempting to fly the ILS or localizer into runway 10 right at Monterey. The accident occurred right about here at the final approach fix, Mink, located just off of the coast. At Mink, you are meant to cross the final approach fix on glide slope at 1,700 feet. With the weather being reported as 800 overcast and 10 miles visibility, the weather minimums for the approach were met. Killed in the crash was Aquarius dive shop owner, a local dive shop in Monterey, James Vincent, age 36. He was believed to be the pilot at the time of the crash. The other two victims, I do not believe, are pilots. This has yet to be verified on social media. I was unable to find it on Facebook, but according to Monterey County Now, there's a Facebook post where James says that he got his multi-engine rating today in the new airplane on a post dated of February 17th, I presume, of this year. So it sounds to me that this pilot had just recently acquired the Beech Baron prior to February 17th and then got his multi-engine rating just some 5 months ago. And this is something investigators will be looking at very closely, is the experience level of this pilot. So if we take the ADSB data from ADSB Exchange and put it into Google Earth here, we can see a normal flight departing out of San Carlos and heading down across the bay into Monterey and lining themselves up for the ILS runway 10, and then things beginning to go wrong right about here near the final approach fix. This point where the pilot begins to deviate left of course should also correspond pretty closely to that point where the pilot begins to enter the marine layer, the tops of the fog. If we look vertically, the aircraft begin to slightly diverge to the left of course, and instead of correcting back to course, the aircraft enters a steeper and steeper descent, getting down as low as about 900 feet right in here. There are ear witness reports to this crash which seem to indicate that both engines were running. There is ring video, audio evidence of the crash that NTSB investigators got a hold of, which will be very valuable in this investigation because as of the nature of this crash, there's very little left of the airframe or airplane to work with. The aircraft began a slight climb here and then a large climb here before completely losing control of the aircraft at this point and making a steep descent and a heading change of almost 360 degrees before crashing into the ocean at a rate of descent exceeding over 11,000 feet per minute. Now let's break down this ADSB data step by step. Approaching the final approach fix on glide path, starting here at 2,000 feet, would put the pilot probably very near to the tops of the marine layer on a dark, starry night. 1,900 feet. Down here we can see the rate of descent, 384 feet per minute. The indications of the beginning of a stabilized approach. Approaching the final approach fix, 640 feet per minute. And the beginning of a slight deviation to the left approach. A rate of descent picking up to 1,664 feet per minute. That's steeper than normal. Speed maintaining, well, picking up a little bit to 131 knots, 1,100 feet per minute, 1,300 feet per minute, 135 knots. The turn picking up to about 90 degrees of heading change, 2,000 feet per minute, much too steep. 2,600 feet per minute, down to 950 feet. Down here, the pilot may very well be breaking out of the weather. This is probably where the houses heard the roar of the aircraft engines low overhead. 448 feet per minute. It looks like the aircraft bottoms out somewhere about 950 feet on that first dip. Now the aircraft is climbing at 2,800 feet per minute, 128 knots. 3,000 foot per minute rate of climb. 448 foot rate of climb at 1,150 feet. And speed still being maintained 137 knots. Now we're going back down again. 2,560 feet per minute down. Let's hop over here. 133 knots, 1,050 feet. Still climbing at 1,600 feet per minute. 3,200 foot per minute rate of climb. So this is that steep climb. Losing airspeed, 98 knots. Now down to 82 knots, still climbing 77 knots, still climbing 3,000 feet per minute. This is unsustainable. This is pretty soon the pilot's going to lose control of the aircraft. 2,700 feet per minute rate of climb, 73 knots, 66 knots, still climbing. We're at 1,800 feet of altitude. 66 knots, 56 knots. Pretty soon the aircraft is going to stall. 52 knots. We've got to be approaching the stall speed of the aircraft here soon. 320 feet per minute, only 42 knots. The pilot has lost control of the aircraft at this point. And then we pick up a rapidly increasing rate of descent. 5,000 feet per minute. 7,000 feet per minute. The ground speed not increasing very much due to the vertical nature of the rate of descent. 7,500 feet per minute, all the way up to 11,500 feet per minute prior to impact. Now, there were some ATC calls captured by live ATC. However, we only received the controller's transmissions. Unfortunately, at this time, we do not have the transmissions from the pilot. That's going to be critical to the investigation, and hopefully these transmissions will be recovered by the NTSB, and hopefully they will be in the NTSB preliminary report.
Romeo, understand Monterey has got low weather. Your attention.
They're talking about the low weather at Monterey. Altitude, your discretion, report inbound. Low altitude alert, you are off of the approach. You're in a minimum vectoring area of 2,500 feet. So are you going around? The ATC controller is telling the pilot to climb and maintain 3,000 feet. So he knows he's already off the approach, and he just wants to get him back up out of the fog. He's advising the pilot to head westbound. That minimum vectoring altitude in this area is 2,500 feet. Just fly on your own, climb and maintain 5,000 feet, desperately trying to get the pilot, to get the aircraft back under control. Radar contact lost about 5 miles west of Monterey Airport. The aircraft wreckage was recovered by helicopter off of the in the relatively shallow water there, and the aircraft was completely destroyed upon impact at that high rate of descent. But they were able to recover both engines and most of the major components of the aircraft. So the NTSB will be looking at the pilot, the weather, and the wreckage of the aircraft. We know the weather was foggy at the time. It looks like the pilot is relatively new to the beach barren and multi-engine flying. Multi-engine flying at IFR at night is one of the most challenging things any pilot can do, even for a very experienced pilot. How can we mitigate these hazards of flying at night IFR? Well, first, I simply just don't do it. I'm a day VFR pilot when it comes to flying the smaller airplanes. The other things we can do, because it seems to me, in my opinion, that this seems to be a case of spatial disorientation in the weather at night. Now, the NTSB is going to have to go through the painstaking process of checking out Part 3, that of the aircraft, and going through this terribly damaged aircraft to see if there's anything wrong with this aircraft that could have been a contributing factor to this accident, including the viability of both engines operating at the time of the engine, and it's going to be very hard to tell if there was any problems with the instruments. The ATC transmissions from the pilots may help determine that, if he was having some problems with the instruments. Again, spatial disorientation will make you think that you're having problems with the instruments, and this can happen to any of us, even the most experienced of pilots. Back to my original point, what can we do to help mitigate these kind of hazards? Besides not doing it, is B, fly with the autopilot on. Use the autopilot to assist you with these approaches, but you've got to be current and proficient enough to be able to manage the situation if there is a problem with the autopilot or the autopilot disconnects. And the other way to best mitigate these sort of flights is to have a second-rated, current and qualified instrument flying pilot or safety pilot with you when you go to fly these sort of approaches. Because flying a twin engine at night in the weather is one of the most challenging things you can do in general aviation. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. See you here.